box breaking is undeniably now a huge part of the hobby, and what it's allowing to do, because people are like entering these breaks for the fun of the break, not just for the cards. The cards are still important, absolutely, but they're also in there as like an activity, something to do.
Yeah.
It's driving the hobby on, and it's almost, I think, like masking the actual production of cards, which there is a lot now. There's a lot of releases.
Welcome back, guys, to another Collectibles House Podcast. I'm Jordan, your host. This is Liam again. Good to see you, man.
How you doing, buddy? You okay?
Very good, very good. We've got Adam Partington on today. Very interesting chap. Had a good conversation, huh?
Yeah, really cool insight into the sports trading card industry. Not so much as an actual collector, but someone who's worked in the industry for the company who's producing the cards for 15 years or so. So it's fantastic getting the sort of behind the scenes information and the behind the scenes angle on the industry as a whole, which I thought was really
from a manufacturer's point of view. We've been doing this for a decent amount of time now. It's just good to see a good face, a good personality that's behind all the interesting cards, because it's a bit of a minefield. So he gives a good amount of clarity to an otherwise, bit of a murky market.
Yeah, and it's really fantastic to get his sort of take and I guess the psychology behind the collecting, the end user, and the work that goes into producing the right cards for the right people, and sort of his thoughts on the industry as a whole, which was really, really good to see.
Cool, amazing. So hope you look forward to it and enjoy the conversation.
You left it to what, 2 seconds before you hit record, before you told me you were a red. So they could have
asked him.
Jordan, you could have given me a run up on that.
Well, no, you would have said no.
We'll get into it.
You'd have said no. We wouldn't get you down there. We had to lock the doors first.
I've had enough of you. After 35 years now being an Evertonian, I've had enough of Liverpool fans, incidentally.
Yeah.
Had enough of them completely.
You can't be far from having enough of football as a whole, though.
Well,
Evertonian at the minute.
Yeah, that's true.
Careful what you say there. You get another deduction of points if you're not careful what you say there. Let's get you another.
Who was your team, Ian?
I'm Newcastle United, yeah.
So, I mean, you've suffered a lot, but now it looks like you're on the
been miserable for the majority of my life. Last couple of years really turned the corner. Yeah. I'm actually 10
why
years
I've got no
younger.
hair.
Surprised. That's too fair. I keep the hat on. We've had some bad years in the past. You're good, had some bad years. Welcome, though. Thanks for coming.
No worries, lads. No, thanks for having me.
Pleasure. I don't know if you want to just give us a bit of an intro about what you're doing at the moment. Obviously, what your sort of background. I know you come from the card community or card market, but just for the viewers.
Yeah, so I often tell people it's like a little badge of honor now. I've been involved in sports cards, specifically football cards, if you want to go a level down, since 2009. Mm-hmm. So my kind of first intro to this space was I worked at the O2 Arena, not too far away from here. And I was working in promotions at the time. I'd come down here from my hometown of Stone in Staffordshire at 18, and I'd kind of ideas of living in London and wanted to get out of the small town as people often do. So I come down to London and I'm doing promotional work at the O2, and I'm doing a bit of extras work as well. And this woman that I worked with at the time was married to the guy who runs Futera, Mark, and she said to me, I think you'd be good at like doing presenting. And I was like, okay, I'll give it a go. And she said, my husband is doing a screen test in Luton, of all places glamorous. Come down because he's launching a football show on YouTube. And at the time, this is like YouTube's like within its infancy. So I thought it was cool. So I went and did it, got on really well with him. And then, so Futera at this point are like launching this YouTube football show. Must be the first trading card brand to even be on YouTube, and I'm hosting it like this fresh face. I had a bigger bar on it then, and we're doing interviews with people like Darren Huckabee and stuff like that. So, and I'm kind of learning a little bit about sports cards, football cards at that point. Mm-hmm. My only, lads, I'll be honest with you, I was never a real hardcore collector growing up.
Mm-hmm. Did you used to play football?
Yeah, just play football, attempt to play football.
Like we all did.
Yeah, like we all do, thinking that I was probably better than I was. But I was into football stickers, right? That was my thing growing up. And I've got a real affinity with like Panini mid-90s stickers now. Yeah. Like I love them. So that was kind of, but then I was like, wait, this is strange, this world. So I said to Mark, so I'm presenting this show at this time, once a month, and I'm interviewing people like Darren Huckabee, who used to play for Coventry and whatever.
Legend of the game.
Yeah. Brian Gunn as well, who was that doesn't matter.
Different generation,
mate. And then anyway, so I was like intrigued by this other side of the business, and I said to Mark, can I get involved in the business side? I like what you do. I like this. So fast forward a year or two, and I moved out to Asia with the company.
Okay. Sorry, they were doing cards already at that time?
They were doing cards, yeah. Futera have been around since 1989.
Okay.
Yeah.
And in the 90s, they held licenses with the likes of Liverpool, Man United, a lot of the big clubs. But then, I don't quite know what happened because it was before my time with the company. They kind of pivoted and found themselves with a big audience in Asia. And then, so anyway, so I go out to Asia in 2011, around that time, 2010, 2011, and then work on, building the brand, and just being involved in the company out there, doing a lot of shows in places like Singapore, meeting collectors. And at the time, the collectibles were not cool. Trading cards were on the periphery of culture, and the people that you would frequently meet at these shows at that time were, I would say, the archetype of the card collector. Do you know what I mean? They were a little bit, I'd say, introverted in their nature, and very obsessive, right? And then the situation changed. I came back to England and I built my career as a marketeer. Fast forward to 2020, I'm working as head of marketing for a transport company, kind of hating what I did a little bit. It was very soulless, lads. It wasn't a sexy product. It was vehicle tracking. It was horrific.
Tough graft,
yeah. But I feel like sometimes as a marketeer, if you can position and sell and build a brand in that domain, then you can kind of build one anywhere, right?
Something you actually enjoy.
You cut your teeth in the real hard deep end.
Yeah.
It gets a little bit easier at something that's got a little bit more passion or a bit more excitement to it.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly, Liam. So, and then Mark calls me and he's like, Ads, this is Collectible. I don't know if you've seen, but Collectibles are going wild. Like Gary Vee's talking about trading cards and stuff. At this point, it's lockdown. Everyone's in their house, pulling out their old card collections. The market's going wild.
Yeah.
He said, I think there's an opportunity in Britain where you come back, leave your cushy corporate job, come back for us, which is, we're acting basically as a startup at this point. Even though, Futera had been around for a while, but we need to build the brand in the English speaking countries. And I was like, yeah, that sounds like fun. So came back and then found an industry that was completely different. And then I've been doing that for 4 years. And as I said, going off and doing my own thing now with CardCon and a few other things. But yeah, that's to give you a,
nice.
Trying to give you a quick kind of synopsis.
Yeah.
Were you someone that obviously during that period though, you've always collected, like you've always kept up with it, like with the trends and stuff like that, or you were very much surprised when you came back into it?
Very surprised.
Very surprised. Okay.
Yeah. I'd like to sit here and pretend like I was, I'm not, I wouldn't say, I think there's a collector's gene,
Yeah.
And I found this, I'd love to see some like data or analysis on this if someone out there would want to put this together, because I think it'd be really intriguing. But when I speak to collectors, at shows and whatever, very frequently they'll kind of come from like a long line of collectors.
Right,
like their dad collected something.
Nature versus nurture is what you're looking for here, isn't it?
I think so.
Yeah.
I think that collectibles have always been so people have always collected things, right? There's lots of examples of that throughout history, of different cultures, different parts of the world where people have collected things. But I do think that it's more pronounced in certain individuals than it is in others. So I never consider myself really a collector.
Right.
But what that allows me to do sometimes is kind of like stand back and look at this without the emotion.
Bird's eye point of view,
Yeah,
right?
you can see it from more of a business point of view, for sure. And the psychology of how people actually go into collecting rather than just getting, like you said, obsessed with it yourself, and you're stuck in with this, running the chicken run while being one of the headless chickens at the same time. Yeah,
I think so. But then on the flip side, I've also now, being so heavily involved in this space, I've also now grown to kind of foster and nurture the collector within me.
Yeah.
Right. So I understand collectors, understand the motivations and whatever, why people collect. I like to think now, as you would after this amount of time in this space. But no, I wasn't ever a bona fide collector.
But you'd say that 2020 period where it sort of went crazy, I guess, broke down the barrier for everybody just to get involved that wanted to, or if it was sort of suppressed a little bit, it became more mainstream. The industry just basically just develops as a whole, would you say, or is it sort of something you saw over time?
It felt like it was very quick. I mean, there'll be people out there that'll say it was already underway prior to COVID, but I think it'd be silly slightly naive to think that COVID didn't have some impact on people's behaviours in this area, because people were sitting around and had less to do, had in some cases more money to spend, right? Because you weren't going out and spending it out and about because you were unable to.
That became your hobby, right? Like whatever you could do at home. So you go online, you start collecting bits that you used to like in the past, stuff like that.
Yeah. So like I found myself, I don't know about you guys, but I found myself back in 2020 kind of retreating into the past a little bit. And I think that other people did this. I'd go back.
It's memory lane, though, isn't it?
Yeah.
You get time,
You kind of like, everything's a bit uncertain, so I'm going to...
You want to go back to a safer time where things were...
I think so.
Yeah.
I might not have articulated that at the time,
yeah.
Liam, but that's probably what I was doing. I think we were all a little bit like, where do we go economically at this point? What is this weird period that we're living in? What changes is going to have, right, at a macro level? And no one really knew the answer to that back then.
Yeah.
So I find myself doing that. And then I imagine that's what a lot of other people did. Hence why people were going back and finding their collectibles that they had in the attic, and then they had more time, so they were sitting around and they were engaging with content more. So when people were jumping onto live streams, you would naturally had more views because everyone was at home. And that's where the likes of Drake going on there and opening baseball cards on his Instagram and stuff.
It's true, yeah. All the content suddenly gets more viewership instead of people. I guess even people going to work 9 till 5, they were sat at home either furloughed or working from home. You could sit there, I guess, flicking through YouTube and seeing seeing the live show. That's true with the actual content side beyond just the physical product of collecting your cards and whatever else it might have been at the time. That's interesting. Really interesting.
As far as like Futera goes, what would you say is the big difference compared to like the others? Like, you got Panini, you got Topps. Is there something that separates Futera from everything else? Or is it, I know you do a lot of unlicensed stuff as well. I've seen some of these gold 23, 24 carat pieces. Obviously we're in the gold market, so it was quite intriguing to see how they've done. They're quite good.
Yeah. I think Futera they're little pieces of art, the cards. Obviously it's a brand that I've been involved in twice for long periods of my life. It means a lot to me. The brand does, and obviously the people that work for that company as well are friends. So I've still got my Futera hat on to a certain extent, and I genuinely do believe that like when you look at our cards, they're very eye catching. Now, as I often say to people, they're not for everybody because people's different tastes differ down to the individual, and that's fine. But I think in terms of the craftsmanship and the artwork, it's undeniable that they are some of the most beautiful, well put together cards on the market.
We're looking at some, you do like them. They're cool.
Yeah.
It's cool artwork.
Was that more so, do you think, because of the Asian market influence? Were they built for that, or just picked up a little bit more there? Or is that what made them bigger in Asia? Because they were more artwork based. I mean, what's your thoughts?
It's a good question. What came first? I think so Gwyneth, who's the like CEO for Futera for a very long time. She's I think Gwen's in her 60s now, so she's starting to take a step back. I think she would probably I see a lot of her influence in the designs of the cards, and I think that naturally just appealed to the Asian market because of and she spent a lot of time in China, I think, and in Asia, has been based in Asia for a long time, so I think she's got a good grasp of what people like out there. But equally in the English speaking markets, there's a lot of avid Futera collectors.
Yep.
But I think in terms of quality, and also I've had conversations during my time, both publicly on podcasts, on stage, and then talking to collectors, but also people that own grading companies that have frequently told me that Futera's cards grade really well. Like, like 70, 80, 90% record of like gem 10.
Really?
Yeah, they do. Okay. They seem to grade really, really well. So they're well put together. They're well crafted, and sometimes I think that has a tendency to slow them down in terms of how they release.
As far as grading goes, because obviously we've had was it MGC? They came to that event, didn't they?
MGC. Yeah.
What's his name? Jake's a great lad.
Jake is really cool. Yeah, really nice.
He's done a brilliant job with MGC.
They've done very well. They're at Wembley. Is that right? They're pretty much just around the corner. Pretty sure Wembley. They're around Wembley
exactly where it was.
But you use them, MGC. That's one of the grading companies.
That's one of the grading companies that collectors would use.
Yeah.
See, working for Futera previously, I've not had any.
Did you not partner with any of the grading companies? It's more just like you can refer them to this place.
No, because as you imagine, Jordan, if a manufacturer partnered with a grader, then that would be seen as like, okay, you're going to get good grades from the company, right?
So anyway, we won't go into it, but other industries.
Well, it's interesting.
For another podcast. Other industries is one of those things that you would think it's not an option, but it's interesting.
Insider trading.
But it should be that way, right?
Yeah.
It should be.
Yeah.
It should be that way. It should be a clear separation between graders and actually the manufacturer, because then there's no funny business, right?
Yeah. Where do you sit on the sort of grading with sports cards? Do you think it helps, hinders? Do you like the idea of it, or do you think it should be ultimately enjoyed as the piece of art? Where do you sit?
I'm ambivalent to that. It's a very diplomatic answer. I know, lads. I don't have an opinion.
Now off the record, can we get a...
No, I think... Does it... I don't think it hinders, or I just think it is what it is. It's just a facet of the industry. People get really worked up about it stuff. I mean, I just like to. I think this is maybe because I'm not a collector, right? If I was a bona fide hardcore collector, I might have an opinion on this, but I don't, because I see its place. I see its place because ultimately, right, there are different characters within the trading card, sports card world. I like to think and put people into like, it's loosely defined, but archetypes, right? You've got your bona fide avid collectors that might not like the whole grading thing, because the people who are more in this space to invest, they put a lot of weight on the grading side of things. So I can see if you were like an old school collector and a purist, you'd be like, I don't like this. The cards are what they are. I don't want to get them graded. It just doesn't.
It's not about making money or turning this over for a profit. Yeah.
But then there are people out there that are only in this space because they like to, for want of a better word, gamble on these things, and that's okay as well. I don't understand why there needs to, because there is a bit of this. These people are kind of ruining it. I think they both. Anyway, graders have a role. And I can see why they exist.
Yeah, it's really good just to get your opinions, because exactly that, through the different industries that we work in, you get exactly as you put it, the purists that are completely against it. You get the investors that are all for it, and then you get that sort of grey ground in the middle where people are happy to do some, not the others. So it's always good just get people's opinions on it.
Yeah, for the record, I'm ambivalent. I have no opinion on graders.
Smart man, you're a smart man. Yeah, you've been doing it for a long time.
They're all lovely people. And very nice guys.
Okay.
The most politically answer. Love the answer. Love it. So going back to your sticker fascination.
Yeah.
So
that's talking about stickers.
Yeah. As far as
can't grade those.
People do though. People do.
I can now. Now he's got an opinion.
You can, bro. You can. I've got an early Cristiano Ronaldo.
I was going to say what you've got, and they're all ungraded. Or you've got
one of them's graded.
Okay.
It's a sticker from 2006. It's adorable because he looks kind of chubby.
Yeah,
which is hilarious because Ronaldo, isn't he? Like, he's like,
must have just been a bad angle.
Yeah.
No, I don't. I think if you go back and look at Ronaldo at that time, like I wouldn't say he was, but he looks a little bit.
He's solid, wouldn't he, about that now?
Yeah, he's a very baby face. It's just hilarious to sticker to look at. I really like it, and it reminds me of that tournament in Germany, which I think football peaked then, because if you go round all of the national sides, they've all got worldies in them. I mean, you look at like the side that England took to that competition; it's insane, right? And what did England do? I mean, I know it's England, and we like to do this, but quarterfinals was, I think it was,
sure,
just a wild team that was. I think like David James. I'm going to go off on a tangent.
No, go for it.
David James, Gary Neville at right back. Rio and Terry as your centre-halves.
Yeah.
Ashley Cole
outrageous
as your left-back. Mm-hmm. Then in the midfield, you got Scholes, Gerrard, Lampard,
Beckham, yeah.
And then
Rooney,
Wayne and Owen or Heskey.
Joe Cole would have been coming in
Joe Cole's hanging around. Joe Cole's hanging around. Owen Hargreaves.
Darius Vassell. Aston Villa legend at the time.
But by the way, one player I won't put and not having any disrespect put on is Heskey, by the way, because he's a great guy, Emil. I've worked with him
Liverpool legend.
Yeah. What a sticker that is.
I'll let him off for that. But anyway, yeah, so lads, I've got a sticker from around that time, which I adore. But my idol, being an Evertonian, is Doug Ferguson, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
As I grew up in the 90s.
He's about to go Gravison, mate. Yeah. Everton to Real Madrid, that's got to be heroic for you, isn't it?
But
great transfer,
like, is a lunatic in the best possible way, but also a really good footballer. And I've got every sticker from like 94 or 95 when he signed for Everton, right through to like his last ones. I've got them all.
That's cool.
That I was actually sent by a collector. A collector sent them all to me, and I love him because it's just the evolution of Dunk.
Yeah. Have you met him?
I've not met Dunk.
No.
I know.
Didn't try and get him through Futera, get a Legends. Because
you
do a little bit more with the Legends, don't you? Or ex-footballers than the current.
Exactly. You only do as the Legends.
It's funny. It's funny because I do work with a lot of the legends, and again, I'm really fortunate because I grew up watching these lads. But I sit down with everybody from Gaza to John Barnes, Petit, any legend from out of time. I've probably worked with them. But Dunk's one that I haven't.
Yeah, you didn't even
Maybe
try.
one
You didn't
day,
try.
yeah.
I tried.
You tried, yeah.
I've been trying to get him, but I just can't seem to make it work.
You never know. Might be listening. If you want to send him a message.
Hopefully, Dunk. If you're watching, mate, I'd like to sit down.
Come down to the big smoke.
Yeah,
you're welcome to
Gallery
House.
No, I'd meet him in Liverpool. I wouldn't bring him down here, would I? Dunk
you go to him. You go as far as that's a big shout. Come on.
Go to the Highlands for Dunk.
Yeah,
yeah. The Highlands of Mongolia.
That's probably where he is now. Scotland. He's the sort of guy who's probably there now. Yeah,
I'd walk there for Dunk. So
done.
There we go. You've heard it here first.
I know. I'm going to chop this off and we'll send it to him, and hopefully he'll get
done.
Why not? Because I do know the guy who works closely with him. I just haven't been able to sort it out, lads. Anyway, digress.
Stickers,
amazing, lads.
So do you think the sticker market is just as big as it used to be? Because obviously it's now you've got cars, you've got all these different things that have come and semi-replaced them. Stickers are a bit, I mean, you still use kids still collect them, don't they? But it's just not as
I find stickers are more of a tournament thing,
right?
Doesn't that feel like you did the Euros? I mean, we had the sticker books, the Premier League sticker books, but you never finished them because it was near on impossible, wasn't it? But the tournament ones, you were always trying to scrap around for that final England player, weren't you? And like you said, you had 14 Darius Vassell's that you were trying to trade for your Stevie G. But
yeah, what's interesting is the last tournament was in Qatar. These stickers, I think they were put out by Panini again. Panini's still just about hanging on to that license.
Yeah.
And I got a lot of love for Panini as well, just because being a sticker guy growing up, right? Mm-hmm. And they started to incorporate trading card elements. Like you could get like they had like different frames on them for parallel stickers and stuff.
Like chrome and stuff.
Yeah, which I thought was really interesting. And I think you could get autograph stickers
numbered and
packs.
Stuff like that, yeah.
This is cool now. So what's happening is I think because of the explosion of trading cards, it's starting to seep into other areas of the market, and you will see this. You extrapolate that out further. So like your coins now will cite the rarity, and there's a lot of focus on that. People are getting them graded. So I think that what's going on in the trading card world, you've seen this with box breakers as well. Now you've got box breakers that are breaking or opening coins. You've got graders that are grading coins as well. So I think the point I'm trying to make is there's a ripple effect. What's going on in trading cards, I think they're so fundamental to the collectible space. It's kind of like, notice how it's
market oversight,
the other facets of the collectible space.
Yeah.
Very cool.
So do you think maybe the sort of growth that you would have seen in cards, there's a chance that you'll see that sort of opportunity in stickers as well?
In stickers? Stickers are a weird one. I'm not sure about where the limit is for stickers. But I think as a whole, I think you guys probably know better than me running a firm like this. Like, I'm very bullish on collectibles. I think as certain other asset classes are like limited now into how hard is it to acquire a property now? It's a lot harder than it was for our parents, right? I think that naturally people are looking for these types of investments, and also, like the Pokemon stuff and the affinity that we all have as we were growing up, to comics, to Pokemon. And I think that the space as a whole is going to continue to grow. I can't really see a scenario, minus maybe like nuclear war or an full economic collapse. Like I can't see a scenario where the collectible space doesn't continue to grow, lads, to be honest.
So you mentioned a little bit more on the actual investment side. Obviously we deal with a lot of people that are looking as investors, profit wise. What would you sort of say is some maybe tips or I guess helpful bits of information for people looking to invest in the card market?
That's really funny, Liam, because I haven't been able to talk like this as the Futera guy. I haven't been able to talk about collectibles as an investment like it's a kind of a red line that they put in the sand for me.
Fair enough.
And part of this newfound freedom I've got means that I can probably give you an opinion. I think of course, like the elements, you would approach any collectible in the same way in terms of like rarity, the condition of the collectible, right? It's supply and demand is king in this regard. Are there that many versions of this one specific collectible? So I think approaching sports cards and trading cards in the same way is of course valid. You know, that there are your bigger brands, but I sometimes wonder, and again, I can say this now, not as the Futera guy, I wonder sometimes whether or not brands matter as much as they once would have one time.
Mm-hmm.
Insofar as I've watched a guy called Tyson Beck in the US, who was a graphic, I think he was a designer for Topps. I think he's launched his own cards now under his own name, right? He's built this big audience on Instagram, and he will go and have people like Mike Tyson and Tyson Fury, big individuals in boxing, the American sports as well, and he'll have them sign his cards that are like he's designed, and they're presented to the collector in a really nice case, very beautiful, very aesthetically pleasing, nice to look at. And he's seen huge demand, right? He sells these things out quite frequently. He's not a big trading card brand, he's a personal brand,
right?
He's built that. So 10 years ago, I think, if 15 years ago, if he'd have tried to pull the same stunt, it would have been a lot harder for him. But now, because he's built his own personal brand, these collectibles happen to look very good, and the content of them is wicked insofar as it's a Mike Tyson autograph card, right? That has innate value. It's not really about the brand anymore. Of course, manufacturers still have...
It's more about the actual memorabilia of the piece.
It's the content, isn't it? It's the content more than the fact that it's put out by... Now, of course, like Topps, Futera, Panini, Leaf, these brands still have weight within the space, and I'm not saying that won't continue to exist into the future. It will, but I think it's a lot easier now with someone who's built their own personal brand to kind of launch their own collectibles.
Cool, isn't it?
So I've gone off on a little bit of a tangent.
No, it's just a really good...
Because it gives people, like you said, the actual creators the opportunity to actually go on their own. Social media, you know, they've got their own following. People do actually follow the artists a lot closer than people think, the proper collectors. So I guess it just gives people the opportunity to sort of break away. And do you think it dilutes the market a bit, or do you think it's better and it's growing and it's making more people interested to think that I could actually do that one day as well? I could be a creator, or I could be this or that.
Yeah, I think if you've got a big enough audience, because these, I don't think it ruins anything. By the way, I think it's good. Yeah. I think it's actually good. I think the more people producing good quality collectibles is good. And I think that the whole box breaking thing's massive. I think that's driven a lot of the demand on. Because I walk around these shows now, and I'm like, there's a lot of cards. There's a lot of cards out there.
It's a minefield. If you don't know quite what you're looking for, it's a tough space to break into or start with, really. Excuse the pun there, break into. That's a bit terrible. We'll cut that.
Is there a lot of unboxed product at these shows, or is it mostly all product that's open?
No, there's a lot of that. There's a lot of that. But I think the point I'm making is, at one time, again, the amount of cards that are being produced now would almost be slightly problematic. So in the 90s, they talk about the junk wax era where there was, supply outstripped demand.
Yeah.
But now I think the interesting thing is in 2024, 25, when this will go out, I think, is box breakers now. People are entering into these box breaks. So just to explain what box breaks are, you go onto a platform like Whatnot or TikTok or Fanatics Live, and you enter into a break. So say someone's got a box of Futera Unique, which are premium products, and they're like, right, I've got a wheel behind me, I've got every nation on the wheel that's in this box. I'm gonna spin the wheel, and if you and then it's going to be an opportunity to get any England cards. So then people who are watching will bid for that spot.
So I'm paying again. I'm competing against Jordan. We're auctioning the chance to win the England cards in that box. Right. We don't know what's coming out.
You don't even know if there'll be any
England
cards that'll come in it. Sure. Right. That box might not contain it.
Okay.
Right. But this adds. Again,
that's the gambling side of it that you're going back to, isn't it? For sure.
I was reluctant to say that again because that word is a bit of a dirty word. It has negative connotations. I understand that. But it's
certainly
reality.
something we've got to highlight, right? It is another version of form of gambling for sure.
It is. It's just the way it is, you know. And I remember reading a post from I think the guy that runs Upper Deck saying something similar. In terms of like box breaking is undeniably now a huge part of the hobby, and what it's allowing to do because people are like entering these breaks for the fun of the break, not just for the cards. The cards are still important, absolutely, but they're also in there as like an activity, something to do.
Yeah.
It's driving the hobby on, and it's almost, I think, like masking the actual production of cards, which there is a lot now. There's a lot of releases. I speak to box breakers and they will have conversations with manufacturers and they'll say, can you just slow this down a little bit? Like I'm struggling to keep up, right?
Right.
Yeah. So that's an interesting play as well. But they're certainly bringing people to the space box breakers.
You know about that because you've obviously been on the back end, right, with the manufacturing of the cards.
Yeah, although in the defense of Futera, they can never be accused of releasing too much product.
Right.
And they never are, because they're more limited.
It's a good reputation to have, though, in the market, yeah.
But it tests you,
it's not a money grab
business.
For sure, yeah.
Quality over quantity is great, but yeah, it's difficult to, like you say, I guess, break into the upper echelons and compete against some of the other slightly larger brands that have got bigger turnovers or profit margins, I guess.
And also to hold your nerve when you've got like customers, no matter what other company has this, customers coming to them saying, can you release more stuff, please? We want more product.
Shows it's a good product, though, yeah.
But Futera, I mean, of course, like as the market's grown, they have slowly started to release more. Just done a multi-sport release, which was really fun to work on, working with athletes outside of football from different, sat down with cricketers, boxers, professional eaters, strongmen, like a whole array of sports
professional eaters.
Yeah, Leah Shuktova was one of the ladies we had to sign our cards. She's great. Leah is really nice girl, and she's a professional eater.
She did a demo on the day as well.
Sorry,
demo on the day.
No, she didn't.
No,
she didn't. She was telling me a lot about that. By the way, it's fascinating. You could do a separate podcast on professional.
Yeah,
eating.
for sure.
Yeah,
fascinating, because she's tiny. Leah is. She's tiny, and I'm like,
how
do you know what as well? Yeah. My old man's a big football.
Not training hard enough.
My old man's a big football fan. Yeah. No, she just doesn't eat, and then literally she'll go toe to toe with Eddie.
It's quite dangerous, though, isn't it?
Yeah.
Could be.
Oh yeah, I think so. But my old man has watched her on YouTube for years, and he's a big football fan. And I remember when I said I'm going to meet Leah, he was like, "What?" And he never reacts like that to any of the other footballers. Because she's got a really good kind of
break it to you, mate. No one cares about Duncan Ferguson.
I care about you, Doug.
Just because your dad's
you are the first person. You are the first person.
Face,
them doors lock, mate.
Anyway, so
Duncan, he's a big guy.
He's a big guy, yeah, and he can handle himself as well, I believe. So, but yeah, going back to what we were saying though, in terms of like, Futera have been really disciplined in that regard.
With the sort of back end manufacturing, how far in advance do these companies look or plan? Like, do they have their releases, the next 20 releases, the next 3 years planned out, rough guides, or how far down the line are you already preparing for and get the releases going?
Yeah, so Futera, it's like normally been like a year in advance. Like, if I Sean, who someone I work closely with, like he maps out a year in advance, different quarters. I don't know what the other brands do.
Yeah,
I should imagine, if they're acquiring licenses for the World Cup, like they're planning well ahead for that now.
It's just it's interesting, as I mentioned. I mean, particularly Tops, they feel like they've got another release coming out near enough every day.
Yeah,
there's something coming out. I mean, that's a hell of a lot of planning or teams working on different things getting chucked up with. In between that, you get their, Tops Now cards that's based on a specific event that they've somehow got to push through and fit through. So it's just interesting to see, is it juggling 50 balls at a time or is it, nicely planned out? And
well, you got to be reactive. So Futera have got licenses with clubs. Ironically, their most successful product is Futera Unique, which is unlicensed. This is another thing about collectors. I'd often sit down with some collectors and they'd
most
say...
Most successful is in sold the most? Or just
most desirable product is an unlicensed product.
Really?
Right.
So
do you mind just explaining that for people, the difference between the licensed and unlicensed?
Yeah, I will do then. So licensed is obviously so if Futera have a license with Liverpool, they go to Liverpool and they negotiate that deal with them, and that will come with certain stipulations. They've got to sell a certain amount, and they can only sell it in this way, and then they could present it in this way. And obviously the club as the licensor in that scenario is dictating the state of play, and then unlicensed products are not licensed and they will do things like remove any problematic imagery that comes with the ban over license, right?
We were talking about it before. It's like PES 2006.
It's like PES.
When you get half the teams that you can be, who's the Blues or something? Who's the Blues?
Although
it's either City or Chelsea, or is this?
The Italian black and white stripes.
London Merseyside blue.
Yes,
Merseyside red. So the license, so unlicensed products, Futera will have the ability to, and other manufacturers that do this have the ability to use the imagery because they'll purchase that commercially from image libraries. But Futera Unique is is their main product. It's the one that's the most desirable, that everybody wants. It comes in like a champagne looking box, very beautiful, would look amazing on this on this stand behind you. And what's interesting is I've had collectors say to me, bona fide hardcore collectors saying, oh no, you got to stop doing this unlicensed stuff. Nobody wants it. And there's the difference, lads, between then the guys that are in there looking to acquire. They're more focused on the content, right?
The coolest card they can get their hands on.
They want Gaz's signature. They want Phil Foden's memorabilia card, because Foden's going to go on and potentially have a stellar career, and that's going to be worse for them in the future. So this is my point about different facets of the hobby. Like, it's okay, right? But it's just interesting to me how I've had more than one person say to me, you got to stop doing this unlicensed stuff, when I was the Futera guy. And I'm like, yeah, but that's Futera's most successful and desirable product.
As a business, it makes sense to keep doing the profitable side of it.
Yeah, I guess because it then allows you to pivot quicker. Because I was thinking about, like, how do you spot the next future talent, or how do you decide, oh, this guy's going to have a good season, or he's had a good season in lower leagues, he's just been bought. Are you able to pivot? That's pretty much why the unlicensed stuff's there. Because obviously if you're licensed, it's probably a bit trickier to sort of market a certain player, or it doesn't really come into it?
Well, it is a bit trickier to market certain players because you have the stipulations by the licensee, but licenses are really important, and Futera have gone after the clubs and done really well there. And that's also enables you to appeal to those fans specifically, because no one supports a league. But they support certain clubs. So I always, in my marketing, within the boundaries of the stipulations that they put forward, I would consider that, right? If I'm talking to Liverpool fans, I know Liverpool fans, unfortunately for me, and I know what's going to resonate with them, right? So,
you'd support the Championship, wouldn't you, next season anyway?
You went there.
You just cut it.
You went there. You had a question, mate. Anyway, sorry. Let's move on fast, because
we can sit on that for a second.
This guy.
No, I was just having a look. In that instance, then, do you feel that?
I'm watching you, mate. Come on, I'm watching you, man. You carry on with this.
I'm on the edge.
I'll go out, and I will get older Duncan, and I'll bring him back.
So I was just going to say, on that instance, then, what is the real benefits of having the licenses or the licensed product if the unlicensed product is the most sought after and best for the brand?
Well, I think because there is a certain segment of the market that won't buy unlicensed stuff.
So it's just making sure you're covering all the bases.
Yeah. Also, it gives you I suppose it gives you a little bit more legitimacy, right? We used to use it as, on the website, you've got these different brands, as, these clubs are now. Liverpool, Barcelona in Futera's case, PSG, Arsenal. These are all brands that they've worked with, right? And that gives you a certain, I think, legitimacy, right? Yeah. And also it enables you to really kind of drill down and go after fans of those clubs that are also into collectibles.
Yeah. Do you feel that's where the future of the market is then, in the licensed, the unlicensed? Where do you think sort of the future of the industry goes then?
A balance of both. Yeah.
I think it depends on some of it. Maybe that, hey, listen, maybe that I don't know enough about IP, and I'm not going to enter into that territory, but maybe things will change in the future where it'll become harder and harder to release unlicensed products. And that will be the case for all the manufacturers. And if that is the case, lads, then Futera in their situation, having those licenses will help. Also as well, the benefits that come with the licenses, like you can negotiate match worn shirts as part of that, which can go into memorabilia cards. So what Futera are very good at, again, is cutting up the jerseys and putting them into their cards, and then telling people where and when those jerseys were worn. That stuff, that information is given to you by the clubs, right? If you're buying the jerseys in that way, a certain amount of autographs, and then there's that kind of that brand recognition that we've had a license for Liverpool for X amount of years. So I don't know what the future holds. But being involved in the events, which I'm really excited by with CardCon, the work I'm doing with CardCon is really exciting, because it enables me to kind of like then just kind of branch out a little bit more and focus on different facets and areas of the hobby. And I'm really passionate. I like being around people. Like, it's my personality type. And the idea of being involved in an event where I'm bringing people together, because one thing I will say about the trading card space, the sports card space, as well as there's a little bit of friction and people see it in certain ways, it's a great tool to bring people together. Community. It's massive. And that's one of the buyer motivations, is community. And it's one of the things that I'm using in the messaging for CardCon, which is going to be great. And having spent time at other shows, what I really want to do with CardCon and what we all want to do, I mean, it's only a small team. There's like 3 of us involved. There's me, Niam, and a lad called Simon. And we're doing like the work of like 20 people, right? All together, we're trying to pull this event together. It'll be the third one, but I really want to make it experience based. I really want people to go and okay, there's going to be people there with cards. The vendors are very important and people trading, and that's a massive part of it.
There's only 3 of you overall, like the main sort of driving force. How many people come to the events roughly?
Oh, well, we're hoping to have at least, 2,000 people through the doors, hopefully more.
Where was it based, the previous one?
It's Farnborough. Okay. So the guy, there's a couple of big, there's the London Card Show, which is Harry is another lad I know really well. He's done a fantastic job with the London Card Show. And I've done some work with him. There's also other ones scattered around the country. A friend of mine, Adam, runs one in Yorkshire. And there's one in Manchester, there's one in Liverpool. But they're really great because they bring people together. And I think at a time when a lot of people feel lonely, right? We don't have these things anymore that knit us together so much that are obvious, like cultural anymore, right? The pubs kind of vanished now without getting too deep into this stuff. But people do feel lonely, right? Loneliness is a big problem within our society. And without making them sound, too important or above their station, but they do bring people together, and I'm really excited to work on that.
Cool.
Thought I'd just insert that in.
We'll pop all the details for the upcoming events you've got in the show, so people can check that out and grab some tickets and hopefully get involved.
Yeah,
cool.
You guys are going to come to that?
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah,
definitely. Yeah. Good what you touched on.
If he gets an invite.
He's got an invite. It's just a bit of friendly banter between.
I'm not wearing Liverpool. What are you wearing underneath that? I was going to ask, as far as you just touched on it there, which I think is quite a good thing to go into. Obviously, everyone can't go to a football game, right? It's expensive nowadays. So you think it's done quite a good. The card world or that market has been good for the fan base outside of the games, because it's just once a week, right? The games. And during that period, what do you do for the other 6 days? You know what I mean? You're still a supporter, you still follow that club. But I guess it's a nice entry point. You can, you can buy a pack of cards, what they go for, a couple of quid, sort of an entry level pack.
Depends. Yeah, an match attacks, especially a couple of quid, yeah.
And do you think, as far as barrier to entry, if you were going to start out today, obviously, Evertonian, as far as what you'd actually start collecting, if you wanted to get into it for, not more just for the enjoyment, but also something that you think is actually going to hold a bit of value. Is there anything you can think of? Obviously, it's hard to tell the future, but
I think in terms of like an intro, match attacks is great for that, because that's now, for us it was football stickers. I used to, if I was good, I remember my mum would buy me a pack of stickers at the end of the week on a Friday on the way in from school and stuff. Kids have my best mate's son loves his football now. They're opening packs on FIFA, which is interesting. So you've got the whole roll of digital collectibles now.
Yeah, we didn't touch on that. That's interesting. Yeah.
Which is interesting. I gave a talk at the start of this year on that relationship between physical and digital collectibles, because I think it exists. I think there could be more overlap in the future as things like the blockchain manifest and develop.
So something Gary V's certainly gone into, isn't it, with the NFT side of the pack that you get as well.
But then match attacks, I think, is a really good introduction product now for youngsters. But they're not going to go out and buy Futera cards. Youngsters aren't, because it's the price point's a lot higher, right? For a box, it's hundreds of dollars. So it's not really something that you would. It's not aimed at kids. It's more of a premium collectible. Yeah. But there are in between. There's different products put out by the likes of Panini and Tops that are a little bit more kind of like that price range, and then they've obviously got their own premium propositions as well. So there's plenty of opportunities to get involved and answer your question.
For the investor though that was looking to maybe get some actual sort of more of the investment side of it, would there be a particular product or idea you would say that's your starting point? Like you say, is it maybe these premium products start there, or is there different areas you think maybe target first?
For an investor, well, I think you are looking for the lower produce stuff just by default. If you're coming at this from an investment perspective, you want to acquire some of that stuff, because you would say that there is an increased chance that will then go on to be worth more in the future, just by the fact that there's less of it. So that would be my major piece of advice, right? If I was going to give any, which I'm not on investment.
No, of course, no financial advice. Just getting
but that's what I'd do. I'd look for those, and when you're speculating on individual players and stuff, that's really tough, because you never know what's going to happen. I remember people putting lots of money down on Mason Greenwood.
Jeez.
Right?
No. What
Didn't go there? Well. I don't know.
Do you want to name names who actually did that? Yeah.
I heard things went badly. Yeah. My point is, lads, is that you can never really... You don't know what's going to happen.
Sure.
On a lighter note, it's not a lighter note, but it's less controversial. Phil Foden could go out tomorrow and pick up a serious injury, right? That really kind of derails his career. Now, football is littered with examples of this. So I'm always cautious of being like, go spend loads of money on a player's card because you think... because you don't know, right? It could be a really good play, but it might not be.
Especially careers of 15 years plus now, there's a lot. There's
a lot that can go on the pitch and off the pitch, right? In Greenwood's case. And so I actually think there's a real kind of, this is where legends come into play, and I like the Futera strategy.
This is what I was about to say, though. Obviously, if you do a lot more with the legend side of thing, I know we mentioned a little bit, you're done with sort of Paul Merson, that's someone who's had, obviously, a great footballing career. A lot of speculation of off-field issues, both negative and now positive in later life. How does that sort of impact the price of something or his memorabilia? Do you want that person in the news continuously, or is it now just football fans that are picking that up? It's a good.
Well, actually, no. It's probably in Merson's case. It's probably strictly.
Strictly. Oh yes. Yeah.
When I did, honestly, lads, when I did the event with Merson the other week at the London Card Show, I had him on stage. We do a Q&A while he's signing his cards, right? And he got more questions about Strictly Come Dancing than he did about football, which was hilarious. Yeah, and he said to me, I now get recognised more now than when I was a player. Like, Strictly's massive.
Yeah,
this is such a good plug for Strictly Come Dancing. Yeah. For the young generation. They're going to start watching it just for that.
Well, I was like, is there a market for Strictly Come Dancing collectibles?
Here we go. Look, no days off.
Always thinking. Always thinking.
Why not? You never know. Yeah.
To be fair, let's get some licenses going ASAP. If anyone at the BBC is listening, 50 Baker Street, come down.
There you go. Another one that I am bullish on. If someone did cards for Clarkson's farm, Jeremy Clarkson is in the news right now. Sure. I think he's arguably one of the most popular people in Britain. Yeah. I don't think Martin Lewis might just nudge him out of that in terms of warmth and goodwill, right? Mm-hmm. On the whole, I saw something recently, 30% approval rate. Like, very few people in the public eye have got that these days.
Yeah.
Clarkson's got it.
We've got the best looking man, didn't he? Best looking man in the UK. Well, guy's outrageous.
But I think Clarkson's farms trading cards with pieces of, jackets
jumper
that he
and
wore.
All this stuff. Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah. Maybe farm orientated type memorabilia within the cards. I don't know, like you cut a piece of his machine up or something and then put it into a card. Yeah. I actually think that would probably get a bit of hype and might find a little bit of traction.
Sure.
Anyway, what the point I'm making is I think there's an opportunity in the pop culture domain
beyond
now.
just sports.
Collectibles.
And certain brands
really
have
nailed
dabbled
it,
in this.
Yeah. No one's really nailed that. They're trying to get into it a bit, but it's not really...
What's you mentioned obviously the Strictly Come Dance side. Are there any good stories that you've got then of other sort of stars and sports stars, particularly when you do these sort of signing events, or is there any cool stories that spring to mind?
I've got a few with Gaz.
Gaz,
just the things that he says, but I wouldn't want to repeat them.
Yeah. Can we put links into the clip so you don't have to say it?
I genuinely he's one of the funniest people I've ever met. Merson's very funny. I'm really lucky. I've not really sat down with any of them where I've been like, I don't like you.
Oh,
yeah, they're all really nice.
How do they react when they doing these signing events? Is it the case where the stars really, they've been training all morning, or they've been dragged out of bed to sign, 500 stickers, or do they enjoy it? Do they like it? Are they interested in collecting themselves?
David James is a massive collector. Turned up to the London Card Show with his box of cards. Wanted to do trades.
He's that sort of type, though, isn't he? You can tell.
Yes, he'd love this. Yeah. I think he would love this. I mean, he's very arty anyway. He was showing me he paints and draws pictures of current goalkeepers. Yeah. So he's going through his phone. This is Jordan Pickford and stuff. Yeah. And they were actually pretty good.
Cool. That's pretty cool.
So he loved it. And I think they're always really shocked, lads, when they come down to these events. They're shocked by the size of the trading card space now. And anybody watching this, I think I'd just want to hammer that home. If you're not too familiar with the space, it's mental, it's growing. And I think if you are thinking of entering the space, whether you're a brand, I really like what Delta have done with their trading cards. I think a year or two ago. I think there's a big opportunity for brands to do their own kind of trading cards and team up with pop culture figures and maybe push this stuff out, or with a trading card brand. And I just think there's opportunity everywhere now. And I think if you haven't been privy to it, you don't realise how big it is. It's not, when I first entered the space back in 2009, it's not that anymore. It's not on the periphery of culture.
The only exposure I'd say other friends of mine or people would have outside of just the collecting cards would be Top Trumps, which is that's something you get at Christmas 10 years ago. You get like a Lord of the Rings top trumps, or you get a sports top trumps, and they feel like a lot of people that don't follow this industry, that's where it stopped.
Yeah.
Because that was the thing that became popular. And then, you can actually actively play it. But apart from that, I just feel like a lot of my friends who wouldn't collect or were not in this space, I think that's probably where they'd go. If you were to ask them, what would you, I don't know, just talking about the collectible market, it's just interesting.
Yeah.
But they haven't really done much more of that. Like other brands haven't really followed suit because it was very popular.
Yeah.
Everything they bring out, it seems to sell.
Yeah.
Like all the big brands.
It's fun as well.
It's active.
I've got it for my kids. I do often wonder if there's a bit more overlap. Like I look at some of the old stuff. Like I've got, I can't remember what they were called now, but I think they were put out by Sabutio. They're like this size cards of like Premier League players from like the mid-90s. And I've got a couple of them still. And they have like the statistics on. So like they've given them a rating for attack and defense. Now Match Attack still do this, but the higher you get up the ladder, like these tops ones, they don't do that anymore.
Yeah.
And Futera don't do that. And I actually think there's probably an opportunity to do more of a premium version of top trumps where you are kind of incorporating
more like the FIFA
gaming
cards
element.
kind of thing.
The online it's almost like that's for TCG, that's not for sports cards.
Yeah.
But I think there's a place for it.
Yeah, for sure.
One question I had, so we normally ask a collectible that you've got, that you own, either you're given it or you bought it, that you wouldn't sell.
Right, this is the story I've told before, right?
Okay.
But Wayne Rooney is my guy, right? I'm not my literal guy, I don't know him, but I'm a big fan of Wayne. And when he broke through at Everton, he was a couple of years older than me, and he was obviously living the dream, right? And when he signed for Man United in that week, my first girlfriend split up with me, and I couldn't work out what I was more upset about.
Worst week of your life, really, isn't it?
Rooney signing for Man United or the fact that she pied me off.
Yeah.
I think it was Rooney, to be honest.
We all know it's Rooney, don't we? Yeah.
I've got a Futera card, which I've sourced off them. They know I've got it, which I love. It's graded by MGC, and it contains a piece of his jersey from the season that he broke into the side.
Cool.
And it's like one of 250 or something. I've had it out on stage before and that. I've kind of acquired it. Of course, Futera may want this back at some point. But it's just
I don't know why they'd want that.
Yeah. It's just the one thing. I mean, it's just the one collectible that I've got aside from my Duncan Ferguson stickers.
Nice.
I'm not.
That's very cool.
That's cool. So, you've opened up maybe a can of worms there. You source that ethically from Futera?
Of course. Okay. They know I've got it. I've been on stage with it and everything. I used it as
yeah.
I know I've got it, and I may have to give it back to them at some point. But it's just a really nice card, and
that's good.
Very, very lovely. And
I think that beats
really
the ex-missus at that age.
Yeah,
she can get in the bin. Yeah, I'd be picking a few Newcastle cards over that as well. To be fair,
well, I went on to marry another woman, and that one was a bit mental, so kind of, just do me a favour.
That's for next week's episode.
Just do me a favour.
Just very cool.
Okay,
so obviously
I'm already in enough trouble.
Back to Duncan Ferguson.
I'm already in. Don't do that. I'm already in enough trouble. We've been Mason Greenwood. We've done it all.
We've covered it all. Amazing.
Yeah.
Really cool. Really insightful. So have you got any? Obviously, the next event that's coming up for you?
Yeah. So it's the last weekend of March, 29th and 30th for CardCon.
Yeah.
It's gonna be really cool. I've got some big names like locked in, which I can't disclose. A very fan led, want it to be very experience led. Really nice vibe when you go, a place that's bringing collectors and non-collectors together. We really also want to tap in because it's Mother's Day that weekend. So like I really want mothers to feel comfortable bringing their kids down to get involved. There's going to be a whole host of different types of collectibles there, not just sports cards and trading cards. So it's going to be really cool, and that's in Farnborough. And
whereabouts do people go for tickets for that?
So it's cardcon.co.uk is the website. It'd be good to talk to you guys as well about potentially coming down and doing some stuff maybe.
No, I really appreciate you coming over. Very insightful. Really
no
cool.
worries. Yeah, I enjoyed it.
Great vibe. Really cool.
Fun. Thank
really
you.
Fun.
Cheers.
Cool. Amazing. Really
nice.
Cool. Thanks again for tuning in. Obviously, that pretty much wraps it up. We've got some good guests or a good guest coming next week. The link will be in the bio for that. But yeah, like and follow, subscribe. Obviously, you know where we are, 50 Baker Street. And yeah, thanks for watching.